Hello, folks. Welcome to the Mindset Artistry podcast. I'm your host, Dave Paolo. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the Mindset Movement. Today, we're going to talk about the risk factor. And when I talk about this risk factor, it's in the context of starting a business, being an entrepreneur, starting a new business, maybe changing your career. Maybe you don't want to start a business, but you want to do a complete career change, right? You want to leave a job that you're at to go somewhere else, but you're starting over, maybe taking less money. Whatever your situation is, whatever you're trying to do, in your career, your work life, whatever it is, starting a business, starting a new business, there is going to be a level of risk that is involved with that, right? And you need to decide if that risk is worth it. You need to decide if it's the right time for you to take that risk. Because here's the thing, time can either be on your side or it can work against you when it comes to risk. And you have to take these risks at the right time in your life. You have to take these risks when you are in the right position in your life, right? You can't just do it. And I'm all for it. I'm all for taking risks. I firmly believe that you need to if you want to get ahead. I firmly believe that you have to take risk if you want to do something great, amazing, elite. If you want to be a millionaire, if you want to be a billionaire, if you have these lofty financial goals, if you want to accomplish great things in your life, you are going to have to risk and you're going to have to sacrifice. But when is the right time to do that, right? So all the time you hear people saying, oh, you have to take risk. Don't quit. Burn the boats. You got to go 100%. You got to do this. But guess what? That's not always feasible. That's not always feasible for the situation that you're in your life. And I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. I'm going to tell the story of myself, how I got into business, when I did it, and was it the right time, and where I'm at now, and what I'm about to do, and how it all kind of goes full circle. So here's my story. I went to college. I came out with a marketing degree. I got into a job that had nothing to do with marketing, stayed there for a little over a year, went into a job that had a little bit to do with marketing. Boom, the internet starts. I'm talking back in 2004, 2005. The internet's now a thing. Digital marketing is more of a thing. People are relying more on the internet to find businesses to work with that they need work done. So now it's this new thing, right? Google's there. Google's getting bigger and bigger. More people are going to Google than they ever have before. They're turning away from print advertising. They're turning away from Yellow Pages, which is who I worked for. And they're turning to this thing called the internet. And people at the time said, that thing's a fad. The internet's nothing. I don't need to be on there. My customer's not on the internet, blah, 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 blah. It changed the damn world. It changed the context of business. It changed everything about it, much like AI is doing right now as we speak. So I got into marketing working at the Yellow Pages, then went to another company called yellowpages.com, then left there with my good friend who was starting a business of his own into digital marketing, one of my great friends. And I was there with him for 4 years. I learned a lot. I learned more about advertising. I learned more about entrepreneurship. And I said to myself that now's the time I want to go out on my own. I'm going to start my own digital marketing agency. I did that in 2013. Okay. Still have that agency. It's very profitable. I do very well with it. I have great clients. I have great staff. And I'm very, very happy with that decision that I made in 2013. But it was a big risk. Okay. I had to leave a job where I was making $100,000 a year in 2013, which was very good money at the time, going to start my own business and having absolutely zero revenue, zero income coming in. Big, big risk. Now, at the time, did not have children. I did not have a wife. I did have a house that I was paying for. Yes, it was a very small mortgage in comparison to my mortgage now. I was helping my mother financially with some things, but overall, my monthly expenses were not that bad. My monthly expenses were not something that I was afraid of, that I didn't think that I can handle or make and be able to live. Now, so I quit that job that I was making good money, started my own business, started with nothing, was out there networking, had to advertise myself, had to, market myself as much as possible for word of mouth. Now, that wasn't paying the bills, though. So what did I have to do? I had to have little odd jobs in between. Now, these odd jobs weren't easy jobs. The hours were terrible, okay? I would do whatever it was that I had to. A buddy of mine, he still has it, had a company that removes and installs safes and bank vaults and that industry. Now, that industry works crazy hours because they want you in there when the bank is closed. So we would start work at 2 a.m. We would go work all night into the next day. I would generally get home the next day around 10 a.m., maybe 12 noon. And then at that point, I would work on my business. I was doing everything I could do at that point to grow my business. I also, when it snowed, I worked at a snow management company. We had snowstorms. I would go out. I would work all damn night, shoveling, putting salt down, plowing. Wow, well, that wasn't coming to me. Plowing the roads, doing everything that we had to do to keep companies' parking lots clean. Hard work. It sucked. I hated it. I was freezing my balls off. It was cold out there. It was miserable. I was getting snowed on. I was getting wet. It was awful. Okay. Any other jobs that I could have done. I was painting. I was doing different things. All of these things that I was doing was to bring in income for me to be able to live and for me to be able to invest my time and whatever money I was making outside of my responsibilities back into my business so it could be successful. Okay. That was my story. Now, fast forward, I'm 46 years old. I have a young son. I have a wife. I have way more financial responsibilities than I did back then in 2013. I have way more responsibilities and people relying on me and people that I promised that I'm going to do things right and that I couldn't put them in jeopardy for me to take that kind of risk today. Fast forward right now at my age with a child, with my wife, if I were presented with that option that I said all of a sudden, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to quit my job, I want to start my own business, I would not consciously, as a responsible adult, make that decision right now. I would not do it. And you could say whatever you want. You can call me whatever you want. I don't really care. At this time and juncture of my life, I would not take that risk and put my family in jeopardy for failing and leaving a job where I make good money to go somewhere where I'm making absolutely no money. Do I trust my skills? Do I know I can be successful? Do I understand the work that goes into it? Yes, all that is true, but I would not leave somewhere where I was making good money, putting my family in jeopardy for me to fail and for them to suffer and take that risk. So where I'm going with this is when you do want to take those risks, when you have to take those risks and you know that you want to because you want something different out of your life, it has to be done at the right time. Timing is everything. And like I said earlier, time could either work for you or against you. So most people won't talk about this. Most people are just going to tell you, yeah, take the risk, do this, don't worry about it. You got to do it. You want this, you got to do this. But that is not feasible for everybody. You have people relying on you and trusting you to do the right things, and you need to do that because that is your obligation and you have to do it the right way. Okay. So the right time, the best time for you to take risk is exactly how I said it. When you're younger, when you don't have the responsibilities of other people relying on you so much. And I get it. Everyone's situation is different. Some people have those responsibilities much earlier in life. Some people have siblings that they're taking care of, parents that they're taking care of. I get it. Okay. So maybe that time's never right for you. Okay. But for some people who don't have those types of obligations and responsibilities, the right time to do it is when you are younger, when you have more energy, when you have more time, when you could put more time into exactly how I said it. You could start your business and still work somewhere else and have the time to do it. You don't have to sleep as much as I do. Okay. I'm 46. I like to get 8 hours of sleep at this point. I wake up every day at 4 a.m. I promise you that I will be up at 4 a.m., but I go to bed by 9 p.m. Okay. So you need to know that. But when you're younger, you could sleep 6 hours. You could sleep 5 hours. You could sleep 4 hours. Okay. But when you get my age, you need to get a good night's sleep. I promise you'll figure that out one day. But if you can take that risk, if you can make that risk to be the entrepreneur, do it earlier in life. You could take that risk to stop the job where you're making good money, to get into a different career, or go back to school, or do whatever it is that you want to do it. Do it when you're young instead of partying. Do it when you're young, when you don't have the responsibilities that you're going to have later on in life. Do it when you're young, when you don't have the obligations that you're going to have later on in life, because at that point, your risk factor, your risk percentage is much, much, much lower than it's going to be later on in life when you do have these obligations or responsibilities. So now's the time. And guess what? You might fail. You might fall flat on your face, and you probably will. You're going to fail. You're going to lose. And guess what? That's how you learn. That's how you get better. Failure is the best teacher. You will learn more from failing than you will from winning. No one goes into business and hits a home run on the first swing. Okay. No one goes into business and it just takes off immediately. You are going to have to suffer. You are going to have to sacrifice. You are going to have to do things that you never thought you would have to do. You're going to have to put in hours that you never thought you would do. And that means, there's a trade-off. You're going to have to not go out and party. You're going to have to not go to those happy hours. You're going to have to go on those vacations. You may miss family events. You may miss different things, but if you don't do it now, you're going to have to do it later. So you either pay now or you pay later. Okay. So you make these sacrifices now, you take the risk now when you're younger, or if you do it later, it's going to make it a whole lot harder on your life. Okay. So do it when you're younger. Time is on your side. Now, fast forward later on. If I were in this situation right now and I said I want to start this new business, how would I do that? How would I do that if I worked for a company where I was making good money? I wouldn't want to do it. I'd be afraid to do it, and I don't think that I would do it, like I said earlier. But if you were going to do that, I would suggest starting that business on the side from what you are doing right now. Okay. Similar to what I did when I was younger, but yeah, maybe your hours are going to be a little bit different. But yeah, sure, still work your job. And then on the side, any extra time that you have, put into that business that you're trying to grow. But now here's the problem with that. Okay. You are going to miss out on some things if that's the case. If you need to put all of your extra time into this business that you are trying to grow, you are going to miss out on things. You're going to miss out on the family events. You're not going to be able to go to little Johnny's baseball games. You're not going to go to little Tina's dance recitals. Like, if you really want to be successful, if you really want to make it, if you really want to replace your job with the business that you want to start, you are going to have to sacrifice. Like I said, you either pay now or you pay later. If you're paying later, that's what you're going to pay with. You're going to pay with your time that you want to put towards other things that you feel you should want to be at your kids' games. You should want to be at your kids' recitals. But if you didn't take that risk earlier on in life and you didn't make those sacrifices earlier in life and you got to do it now, that's what you're giving up. You're going to give up on that extra time. You're going to give up on that time that, and they're just going to have to understand it. And you're going to have to understand that. And you're going to have to make that decision, and you're going to have to make that deal with them. And they're going to need to understand, like, hey, daddy's not going to be around because I'm working. Mommy's not going to be around because I'm working. We're doing this. It will pay off, but you need to understand right now, whatever those extra 5 hours at night or in the morning, they got to go towards my business because this is what I need to do for you. But that's all on you at that point. You need to deal with that. You need to figure that out. May mean that you need to wake up earlier. May mean that you need to go to sleep later. And you're going to have to figure out that time. Time's not on your side now. It's not on your side like it was if you could have done it years ago when you were younger. And you need to understand that. You need to make good with that. You need to be okay with that and be right with that, because that's it. Or don't do it. Okay? Because don't start that business if you don't have the time to do it. Don't start that business if you're not willing to sacrifice. Don't start that business if you're not really ready to give it your all and ready to get your ass kicked and ready to eat crow and have egg on your face and whatever else, because that's going to happen. Like, when you start a business, it is not easy, because everyone would do it if it was easy, and it is not easy. I promise you that. Years later, here I am. I have a few businesses, and it is not easy. Okay. And then here I am again. So let's go full circle. Here I am again now at 46 years old, and I'm in the process of doing something of getting into another business. And that's going to require a lot of different pieces of dominoes to fall in the right direction. And that is all happening. I will talk about that later once it's actually done. I do not want to throw it out there right now, but here's the thing though, like, I'm going to be taking a big risk. I am going to be making a lot of sacrifices in my life, but here is the thing. I am in a position where I can do that. Financially, I can do that. You know why? Because I took that risk years ago in 2013, when I didn't have as much responsibilities, when I didn't have as many obligations. I took that risk now. So now when I want to take this risk now, later on in life, it's a much softer landing. I know what I have to do. I know where the money's at. I know what money I need to come in to still have the life that I want, the life that my child wants, life that my wife wants, the life that we're accustomed to. But I can do that because of the work that I already put in and the sacrifices I already put in and the risk that I took over a decade ago. If not, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now to be able to do what I'm about to do. So stay tuned. I will tell you more about that when it all transpires and unfolds. But I will tell you this, I am happy with the position that I'm in to be able to do that, but it's only because I took the risk at the right time years ago. So like I said, time can either be on your side or against you. Luckily, I did it at the right time. I knew that it was the right time for me to do it. I understood that I didn't have kids at the time. I understood that I wasn't married at the time. I understood that that was the time for me to take that big risk so that later on, I don't have to pay for it. Later on, I don't have to completely change my life or alter it or work 20 hours a day or put myself in ridiculous financial debt. So you need to understand that. You need to understand that timing is everything. Not everyone's going to go start a business with a boatload of money. Not everyone's going to start a business with investors or this and that and have all this type of money. So if you're starting it from the ground up with your own money, with your own time, you need to understand that timing is everything. Time could be on your side or not on your side. And that risk factor, that risk percentage is very, very, very much determined on the time in your life when you're doing that, the responsibilities that you have, the obligations that you have. So choose wisely. Look, if you really want that, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, or if you really want to change your life and go into a different career, I tell you, you should, but you need to do it intelligently. You need to do it the right way, and you need to make sure that you are not putting anyone else's life in jeopardy if you fail when you fail, because it's not fair to them. They trust you. They rely on you, and you need to do it the right way and make sure that they're going to be safe, and plain and simple. So that needs to be factored in. But that is it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you're in that situation, if you're starting a business, starting a new career, and you have some questions, thing that I can help you with, I'd be happy to. So DM me, leave me a comment, whatever it is. I'd be happy to give you any advice that I could. And that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining, and I will see you all next week.